Good morning. How is it going? So, I'm going to be even more distracted today because I am up on YouTube as well as TikTok. We're going to see if I can get back to running both. How have y'all been this last week? I think I haven't, I'm pretty sure I haven't been live since like last Monday. Yeah, no, it is 9:30. I'm early because I was trying to make sure I had my equipment set up. So yeah, I'll still stay on till 10:30 today though. Just 15 extra minutes. So go do what you gotta do. But yeah, so today I am a hair early because I wanted to make sure all the equipment was up and running and I remembered what all these buttons do. And it is also being recorded for the podcast. So you know, if you miss bits and pieces, it will be recorded in some way or another. Also, I decided I would jump on a little bit early just to get through the mental whatever backflips I'm doing of recognizing that I am an unschooler, apparently. I think you just have to have a channel to go live on YouTube. I don't think they have minimum requirements. Uh, it might be that you've had to have your channel for a while. I'm not sure. I don't think you can like make a channel and go live the same day. But there's not like I don't think there's a minimum requirement for subscribers. Hey Samantha, you said all you're doing is stressing about next school year. This is at least a fun way to process it. Listen, so I hear you because I don't know what it is about spring break that makes most of us start thinking about the next school year. And thank y'all so much for the likes. I so appreciate it. Um, but yeah, so I also am in that same mindset. I was going back and forth last week about letting my oldest go ahead and start high school because she finished her eighth grade requirements. And I was like, well, might as well. But actually, what we're going to do, or what we are doing this week, is she signed up for an edX course through Harvard's extension to start doing a course on video game development. And I was like, let's just do that. Like, let's not even worry about high school math, this week. Let's pump the brakes a little bit because we basically just ended up doing like a pros and cons. What are the advantages of trying to go to high school or complete high school early? What would be the end goal? What's the end result? How does this benefit you, meaning my daughter, to start now and finish, super early? And we really couldn't come up with any real reason why she would need to start this week, even though she's complete. So right now she's just doing what she wants to do, ergo unschooling. Like, okay, so you're going to start bringing your podcast to YouTube. Do it. Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Samantha, though, I'm always, you said that, you wanted, your husband took a pay cut. You wanted to buy what you wanted to buy is not in the budget. I'm always about what's free out there or, kind of creating our own style, which I don't know how I didn't make the connection that I'm an unschooler. I think because I thought I don't fit the aesthetic. That's probably why I've been so resistant to claiming unschooling. But I don't think I can claim that anymore. Hey guys, welcome in. I'm also live on YouTube today. So if you guys just are popping in, live on both, and it'll be up on YouTube if you have to like step away. You made it through the first year. Can't wait for next year, but also I can wait. Yeah. I like that. Well, congrats on making it through the first year. It is definitely by far the I think the most trying, years 1 and 2. Because year 1, you're just like, I have no idea where to start or what I'm doing. And year 2, is you're refining a bit of from year one, but it's still like the toddler phase of homeschooling. So like you guys know, I'm always comparing kind of homeschooling to either being a new gardener or a new parent, and it's equally as chaotic in my opinion for both. So you said, what is the aesthetic anyway, or what is aesthetic anyway? Listen, we know what the unschooling aesthetic is, okay? But for those who are just like, I guess I need to say it. I just don't feel like I'm that much of a hippie to be an unschooler. But then I look around at my life and I'm like, clearly I am that much of a hippie. Um, and I need to just stop saying that I'm not. Like, just because I wear all black apparently is not enough. But no, I think I've known, I just didn't want to accept it because I sometimes feel organized and I do like to have things laminated, instruction, organized, and color coded. But that does not mean you're not an unschooler. So you're exploring the free stuff right now. Okay, so what's caught your eye? Because I know last time we went live, you had me looking up something that was pricey. I was like, what is this? So what's got your eye on the free side, or what has caught your attention? Nice, nice. Okay, good that you guys are finishing y'all's first year and finishing on a positive note. That's a good thing, because sometimes it can just feel like, all right, we just barely making it to the finish line. You know, like if you've ever been a runner or you've ever gone running, and you get like you can see the finish line, but you feel like you're about to collapse. So there's not like this joy. See, I think for us, because we homeschool all year round, there's never any real finish line for us. You said I'm definitely a hippie. I guess, man. I guess. I do think eclectic and unschool are the same. I mean, I went and looked up the definitions for both because that's just my style, and they are the same. I just don't. I hate the name unschooling. Honestly, that's what it is. I just don't like the name. Okay, so you're liking the campfire curriculum, so you may try that and buy a unit from them occasionally. Got it. Got it. Got it. I think we did look up that one day, and that was the more nature based one. You debate how much progress you accomplish about 6 times a day. That self doubt is like it's the thing that we all have that unites us. I think as homeschoolers is that self doubt. I don't think I've ever met a homeschooler who didn't at least sometimes question, "Am I doing enough?" So that's just it's part of the curriculum, I guess, like coffee for some people. So yeah. Samantha, you said we call it child-led learning. I think those terms are all synonyms, honestly. Child-led learning, eclectics, homeschooling, unschooling, all of those are synonyms, to be quite honest, because they ultimately have the same source definition. And I actually, went and talked to my kids about it this morning when I realized it. And I have Allison's video to thank for like, making it, bringing it to the forefront of my mind. Allison from homeschool.house. So if you're not following her for like homeschool resources and recommendations, that's what I'm talking about. And she was the one that kind of, how she was describing it was basically the way that made me go, wait, what? I'm an unschooler? And then, like I said, I went and read a definition of unschooling, and it was just like, oh dang, I can't deny this. So I'll read it to you guys for anyone who hasn't read it or who might be new listening in. So unschooling is an informal learning that advocates learner chosen activities as a primary means for learning. Unschoolers learn through their natural life experiences through play, household responsibilities, personal interest and curiosity, internships and work experience, travel, books, elective classes, family, mentors, and social interaction. often considered a lesson and curriculum free implementation of homeschooling, unschooling encourages exploration of activities initiated by the children themselves, believing that the more personal learning is, the more meaningful, well understood, and therefore useful for the child. While courses may occasionally be taken, unschooling questions the usefulness of standard curricula, fixed times at which learning should take place, conventional grading methods and standardized tests, forced contact with children in their own age group, the compulsion to do homework, regardless of whether it helps the learner in their individual situation, the effectiveness of listening to and obeying the orders of one authority figure for several hours a day, and the other features of traditional schooling in the education of each unique child. So when I read that, I was like, if that's not my philosophy in a succinct paragraph, I don't know what is. So it was really just glaringly obvious, staring me in the face today. I'm an unschooler. I am not a homeschooler, because even though I have a laminated schedule, right, and school calendar, I don't follow it. We are not always homeschooling at 10:30 to 12:30, and we're not always doing, art and music on Thursdays. Like, this is a security blanket and nothing more. All right, so let me jump back to the comments and see what I've been missing. Okay. Oh, Lori, I'm so sorry to hear that. And you're not behind, first of all. And if anyone is making you feel like you're behind, you do not need that negative energy in your life, okay? My gosh, you guys are going through a serious life experience right now. Like, you're not behind anything. Oh my gosh. I'm very sorry to hear that, though. You're considering all year. I think that is what took so much stress off. That took homeschooling year round took a lot of stress off of me in the when we switched to that, probably around year 3 of our homeschooling, because it took the pressure off to finish things by a certain deadline. So it was just another way of like releasing the shackles that traditional public school had on me. So we've been enjoying it. Is Wildwood on my resources? Let's look. That name doesn't sound familiar. Looking it up now. Wildwood. Oh, it might be. This looks kind of familiar. Let me actually go to my resources list to see. I'm going to do Control F on that one to search. And again, if you're new, the resources that I'm looking up on my list, just list of resources, it's all in my profile. So the link tree. Okay, no, Wildwood is not on here. So let's take a peek at it. Okay, so it's definitely, okay, yeah, Charlotte Mason based. I'm seeing Shakespeare on here, which I know I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit at the way some people like to implement Shakespeare. It's like, oh, but they have my favorite one, Much Ado About Nothing. So it's looking up. Okay. I mean, I like Shakespeare, don't get me wrong. It definitely inspires a lot of the entertainment and stuff we see, but let's not act like that's the only way people can learn about literature. Okay, so I'm adding Wildwood to the list. Okay, so it says it's a secular curriculum for ages 6 through what? 6 through 14. So basically looks to be like K through 9th grade, I would give this. Oh, they have a composer rotation. Which composers are included? Brahms. Okay, I'm familiar with a lot of these. I'm actually kicking myself though. I didn't go to this concert. It was this free concert that was in our area last week. I'm kicking myself. I should have gone. Okay. Where I'm sorry, guys. I keep looking away from the comments, but I am adding Wildwood right now. So if you want to check back later to my list, it'll be on there. Let me just finish adding the link. And thank you, Samantha, for putting that one out there. Okay, and they're still building it. This one is in progress. It says here on their website. So that it sounds like one to watch as they continue to grow. So that's good. So it could potentially end up going all the way through high school. For now, it appears that it's kind of stopping around the 9th grade level. So if you have an interest in the Charlotte Mason style, as we were discussing styles of homeschooling earlier, this could be one to check out. All right, so that one's on there now. And thank you to those. Hey, you're on YouTube. I see you. Yes. Oh man, I'm trying to do both, guys. We'll see. Although, okay, so anyone who's not, kind of been around homeschool TikTok for a little bit, are y'all not loving that there are so many more people that are sharing their homeschool style and aesthetic and answering questions now? I'm loving that right now because I think it's so important to see more types of homeschool than just I've got it all together. I've been homeschooling for a million years, homeschoolers. And nothing against those, because obviously I think I fall into that category too. But I'm loving the folks that are like brand new, that are like reaching out for help because they're like, homeschool TikTok, help me. Because you need to see that. We need to see that, when you start this thing, we don't know what we're doing. And some people like me are like, oh, don't worry about it. You got this. But no, I think it's helpful to see in action, like see in real time people that are figuring it out. All right, so you're going to be joining the state of Georgia in June. Good, good, good. Georgia's dope for homeschooling. You should, if you are coming in June, you might want to consider going to the Homeschool Expo, Southeast Homeschool Expo, which happens at the end of July. I go some years. I treat it almost like a teacher training, to be honest. Because it allows you to see a bunch of resources all in kind of one room over the course of 2 days. There'll also be lots of different speakers that are giving talks on specific subjects, like if you're struggling with a young reader, or if you're not sure how to incorporate math, or you want to make sure your child has exposure to different types of art. Like all these types of subjects are covered during the Southeast Homeschool Expo. And also, if you're not in the Southeast, just check your area to see if you have one in your area coming. So yeah, check those kind of things out. Oh, okay. So you love it, but you need more people who aren't pushing the good and the beautiful. Listen, when it comes to brand new to homeschooling curriculum recommendations, the good and the beautiful has people in a chokehold. They have the Google SEO on lock. And I'm not anti all-in-one curriculums, because I do recognize that some people need that. When you're just starting out, you want the training wheels, you want the one and done all in a bundle kind of package. So I get its purpose. But yeah, I'm with you. Whenever I see good and the beautiful, I just scroll because it's like, I am not the target audience. This is not for me. So 100%. Oh, hey, Emily. Well, thank you. You're in Florida and you have 2 kids, one in high school, one in elementary school. Well, I appreciate that compliment, first of all, because y'all don't know. Every week I want to quit doing this. Every week. But every time someone says thank you, it's helpful, that's what gives me the boost to keep going on to the next week. Because y'all, I sometimes just want to retreat back to my quiet life where there's nobody questioning homeschool, nobody trying to debate it. But I will say this past month or so, I have not had really anybody be negative on my page, which I've been loving that. And I think we all know why that is. So no need to elaborate on that. But when the negative comes back, it's like, you know what? I don't have to be here. I'm good. But I so appreciate the compliments and the likes. Thank you guys so much. If you want to like it, share it, so that if you know of someone who could benefit from this live, then please do. Please do. Okay, non-religious curriculum. Okay. So the thing about curriculum is, are we talking all in one? You need a non-religious all in one? Because chances are, if it's an all in one package to be sold, homeschool curriculum companies know their audience, okay? And whether you like it or not, that tends to be religious leaning people. So if you are looking for resources that are not religious based, you have to delete homeschool from your search, and you have to search for just educational materials. You almost have to think like a teacher, think like a public school teacher rather than a homeschooler. Even if you try to type in secular homeschooling, you're not going to find a ton. Like Wildwood was one that Samantha just shared, because I'd never heard of that, but it looks more like a blog. It's not as polished as some of these other curriculums that you're going to see. I would say look at something like education.com, which is an all-in-one for elementary through middle school. You will find everything that you need under the education.com umbrella, and that includes games. You can print workbooks and all that type of stuff, which is non-religious information on education.com. But it's not packaged like a curriculum. Like there's not things to buy and send to your house. It's more online, you print it, you still have to pick and choose what parts of that you want to use, which is what teachers do. Like even on Teachers Pay Teachers, you'll find a ton of free stuff, but it's not going to be prepackaged in that, lovely cellophane like you're opening stuff on Christmas morning. Okay, I see Blossom and Roots being recommended. I haven't used that, but Samantha's saying it's amazing and it's secular. So there you go. That sounds like one for all-in-one. Oh, also, what's the one that Chelsea uses? Oak Meadow. Oak Meadow. Oak Meadow is what she had been using and liking, although she says they are transitioning to something else now. So Oak Meadow and Blossom and Root and Wildwood. You can check into those. Also, New Path worksheets I like, but again, it's not an all-in-one prepackaged curriculum. It's more like print your own as you go. But then, like I said, there's other things that you can put together to make your own curriculum that are not religious, but you're not going to find it necessarily under homeschool. Like Spectrum workbooks are resources that you can use. Summer Bridge workbooks are not religious. Brain Quest and everything else under the Workman Publishing, Scholastic resources. Who else? McGraw-Hill workbooks. What's the one? Who is? Oh, Evan Moore with their critical thinking workbooks. Like these are things you can put together. Oh, did she? Okay, do you remember what it was, Christina? By the way, y'all should be following Christina, Team Hey 5 right there. Good morning. Okay, so you said you just put your daughter out. You're trying to unschool, but some days are hard. I feel like I'm not doing enough. Yeah, that's a standard feeling. It's like if you were to go to like a homeschool doctor that was like, so tell me your symptoms. I'm overwhelmed, a little confused. I feel like I'm not doing enough. All of that. It's like, you're completely normal. That is completely normal for the first year. You're basically going through a growth spurt, where you're a bit uncomfortable. You're unsure. You're like, is this awkward? Is this what it's supposed to look like? Yes. Yes. If you came into homeschooling completely confident, You didn't question anything like, am I doing enough? If that never popped into your brain, I would think you're insane and you're probably delusional and not doing enough. If you were saying that, oh no, I'm good. Like, I know we're doing everything right. Like, if that was what you said, I would honestly be worried for your kids a little bit, because I'd be like, wait, what? What do you mean? Okay. Unless you were a second generation homeschooler. If that was your thought, and because you had already been through it, then that's a little bit different. But yeah, so you're totally normal by, feeling like you're not doing enough, because again, you have to think about it, like, especially if you went through the traditional 13 years of public school like me. When you're used to thinking that education or a school day takes 7 hours, getting things done in 1 hour or an hour and a half or even 2 hours feels like you didn't do enough. But I promise you did. Okay. It's kind of like if you've ever made a recipe that you originally thought, like maybe you saw a recipe, you had a dish at a restaurant, and it seemed like it was very complex and very challenging. But then you go and you find the recipe and you try to make it at home, and you realize, like, oh wait, that's it? There's not more steps to this? That's basically what homeschool is like. And you also have to divorce yourself from the public school mentality, because you're not educating 30 kids at once. You're not answering to an administration that has a lot of different non-academic standards that you have to comply with. So when you take away, let's say you have 3 kids like me, when you remove 27 kids from the equation and you remove nonsensical sometimes standards from the equation, yeah, you can get a lot more done faster. So don't let that be something that trips you up into thinking like you're not doing enough. All right, so I'm just jumping back a second. So Christina says the website to look for homeschool resources that are not religious is secularhomeschooler.com. So thank you so much, Christina, for dropping that in. My opinion on the Shell Education 180-day workbooks is that I think it operates kind of like public school light, in that for those of us who live in states that put that 180-day time frame on us, the 180-day workbooks feel very comforting. But in my experience, we don't finish all 180 days. And some of it seems a bit redundant. I'm not against it. I just think that it operates more like I said, like a security blanket. When you go and you research your homeschool laws over here, like in Georgia, it says you must do 180 days, 4.5 hours a day. So then you go and you Google or you research homeschool workbooks, and you see Shell Education has a bunch of 180-day math books and language arts and science and social studies. And you're like, dope, I'm buying all of that. And I've done that. So I think it definitely meets its need, but just don't be surprised or discouraged when you don't make it to day 180. In fact, if you do, please come back and let me know that you did, because I feel that's like a unicorn moment right there, to make it all the way through. But it will meet the need. It will meet especially if you're someone like me who are, meeting this state standard is always in the back of your mind. It will do that. And if you're like, I just don't have the mental capacity, I'm doing too many things to try to plan every lesson, it will do that. But again, keep in mind, your kids are going to have days where they don't feel like doing science. So you're going to be skipping some days in that 180 day, and it's going to make you feel pressure like you've got to catch up. And that's what happened to me. I felt like, oh, we missed day 76. So now we've got to do 76 and 77 on day 77. And it created more stress than I didn't need. So I think eventually, if you start with them, you do graduate from those, because you recognize, like, we can get a lot of this done without the pressure of the numbers of day this, day that. But the content, if you ignore the days in those books, because I actually have some, I'm looking at some right now. If you ignore the days and just focus on the content, I think you'll find it a much less stressful experience. And again, it will meet the needs that you're trying to complete for that grade level. So it's a fine resource. Just don't get hung up on trying to keep up with every single one of those days. It will stress you out. All righty. Let's see. Okay, awesome, awesome. You guys were agreeing about yeah. Guys, we have to remember those of us who went through public school all the way from start to finish, daycare, summer camps, all that stuff. We are trained. We have a mentality that we have been indoctrinated, and you have to accept that. Okay. We are Pavlov's dogs that have been trained to drool at the mention of curriculum, and we are supposed to anticipate hours and hours of learning and busy work. Okay. And once you have recognized that you have been trained, we are we are a product of our conditioning, but we're trying to break out of that and give our kids something different. You have to recognize it's not going to look the same. And I think if you accept that, those of you who are considering homeschooling, accept that it's not going to look like what you experience, you will have a less stressful transition into homeschooling. Especially if you're someone with young kids who will never go to school, like mine. We started when my kids have never been to school, even though I've kind of decorated our little room here to look like a school. That's for me. That's my brain that says we need a whiteboard and we need a calendar and we need stuff on the walls, the alphabet on the walls, and we need posters. My kids don't even spend most of their day in here. Like, this is just where they store their stuff. I'm the one in here like, yeah, I'm doing good. Because it's my mentality says we need cork boards and we need posters. My kids are learning by talking to Alexa and watching YouTube and, going to the library and going to events. This room, and I'll go ahead and give you guys like a preview around it. This room is a product of my public school conditioning that says I need this to feel official. My kids don't need this. Your kids don't need this. It does not have to be this expensive adventure that you are, putting pressure on yourself. But if you do, just recognize it for what it is. That it's a product of your conditioning, and that's okay, but just don't look at that as this is how it has to be. All right, so let's jump back a bit. I know I keep letting the comments pile up. Oh, you were homeschooling, you were forced to make it to day 180. Yeah. Oh. You did or did not have you did have to deal with the extra stress that you're talking about. Yeah. When you have to make up things, often had school across the weekends. Yeah. See, that's what I don't love about the 180-day things. Is it imposes this pressure to catch up. But again, that goes away when you just decide to homeschool year round. So, okay. So you tried the 180-day workbooks this year. Usually do a page or two a day, and you find you have to supplement some days with more resources, but it gives us a start point. Yeah, it can definitely operate as a backbone to what you're trying to do. And all curriculum, by the way, not just these workbooks, all curriculum you will supplement with other things. And that's another thing. I think if you go into it knowing that whatever is on the worksheet or the lesson plan that you print out from wherever you get it, you will supplement that with a YouTube video. You will supplement that with a field trip to a science museum or history museum or art museum near you. You will add on to that with books that you get from the library. Like, no curriculum, and anyone who tells you any different is lying or sponsored, and possibly both. You are not going to find any curriculum that is fully complete that you don't add additional resources to. And the analogy that I use with that is like a cookbook, right? A lot of these curriculums are cookbooks. They give you the basic recipe, but you know your family's dietary needs. You know that you guys like more cinnamon or more sugar or less salt, or you're gluten free, or whatever the dietary needs are for your family. So you will make adjustments to that cookbook. The same way when you buy a curriculum, any curriculum, you will make adjustments. You will add on, you will take away, you will, whatever is needed for your child's learning style. You will make those adjustments. Sorry, I got eyelash in my eye. You will make those adjustments accordingly. Okay, Maryland, trying to look for groups. You're going to start to the library. Yeah, start at the library. That was going to be my recommendation. You're already on it. Because a lot of times librarians are recognizing, the frequent flyers that come through the library quite often. So definitely start with the library. I'm not a Facebook person, but I hear, a lot of people find each other through Facebook. But libraries and just other activities that your kids like my kids have met friends through Girl Scouts, through Taekwondo, through just being out and about, and you recognize like people that are out on a Tuesday morning at 11 with a bunch of other kids are probably homeschoolers like you. So yeah, I like it when it happens naturally, but you can definitely like make it happen by seeking out co-ops and stuff. You said you need the room. I admit it, and I want a smart board too. Right. But recognize where it comes from and recognize that it's not necessary for homeschool, but we just want it. And it's just like with a car, right? Like certain cars have additional features that have nothing to do with the operation of the vehicle, but it makes you feel more comfortable when you have this or that feature in your car. This room is a feature that I like to have. And I've recognized that. Like, this is so not necessary for homeschooling, but it makes me feel good. Okay, I thought I saw someone that said, oh, Jessica says, I don't even know where to start with homeschooling. Well, welcome, Jessica, if you're still here. And I say start with, how old are your kids? Let's start there. Are your kids in school, or are they young and you would not be, they haven't been to school yet? Because that's two different start points. It's kind of like the game of life, right? Like when you choose the college route on the game of life, or you choose the career route. Like we got different start points here with homeschooling. So are you starting from my kids have been in school a couple years, or are you starting from my child is 4 or 5 and we're thinking about it? Okay, you said Facebook is a lost cause. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, honestly. Okay, yeah, you don't have extra rooms but posters on the wall. Yeah, no, same on that. There's some days where your kids only do education.com and reading. I totally get that. All right, Jessica's answer, she said, I have a second grader and your youngest will start kindergarten in August. Okay, so still pretty young. So with your second grader, if you're choosing to homeschool, you would need to withdraw. That's step one. No, back up. Jessica, do you mind sharing what state you're in? Because that also affects the first step. Sorry, I know I said what age, but I also need age and state. Because I don't want to get into this whole long rant about what you need to start if you live in like Texas. Okay, Alabama. All right. So you would, for Alabama, that's the state that treats homeschool like a private school. So you would need to withdraw your second grader properly through your school district. So your school district will have on their website a withdrawal procedure form. Depending on your school district, you'll have to mail it in or you have to walk it in, or some schools are in the 21st century with us and you can just do it online. But whatever that procedure is, you'll withdraw your second grader. But before you do any paperwork, you're going to want to visit Alabama's Department of Education website, which you can just search Department of Education, Alabama, and read through their descriptions for homeschool, because they have different classifications. One, they look at homeschoolers as private schools, but then there's a separate umbrella where it's like Alabama under a religious organization homeschooling, and then Alabama, you're kind of doing it your own way for homeschooling. You could also find this information on the HSLDA website in order to just get an overview. But I always think the best place to start with this stuff is the Department of Education for your state, because they typically, all of them have a page dedicated to homeschooling with the resources right there. And it's best to just get it directly from the source. So that's just my 2 cents on that. But either way, once you've done the legal schmiegel bit of just recognizing what the law says for homeschoolers in Alabama, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's not super intense. You don't have assessments in Alabama, because I'm your neighbor. I'm in Georgia. So I was looking at the differences. It's just across state lines. It's so different. The only thing you really have to do in Alabama is just notify the state that you are going to be homeschooling. And then after that, it'll be up to you to find the curriculum through basically trial and error of what you guys want to use and how you guys want to go about meeting the standards for Alabama. So it's pretty simple. It's just a matter of paperwork, doing it in the right order. But start with reading through what Alabama requires. Samantha said you converted your basement to a homeschool room, but we never use it. I mean, but we recognize it's for us. It makes us feel good. You said you thought you have to have a state licensed educator in order to homeschool in Alabama. I think you might be talking about their umbrella school option under their church version. Because, like I said, Alabama has different homeschool options. And I believe if you're going under the church option, that one has the teacher license educator requirement. But if you're homeschooling as though you're just like your own private school, your own private entity, no, that's not a requirement. You said you're coming back to homeschool. You thought private Christian school might be the key. It was not. But hey, you tried it out. I am always an advocate of school choice. You tried it out and you recognize it wasn't going to be a good fit. Where do you start for logging homeschool credits? So I have already created a high school transcript that we will be using, and that's how I'm going to be logging the credits. I sell the transcript that I have made. It's in my Etsy shop. But essentially, you would create the transcript that you're going to be using, because that's all that a college is going to ask of you, is for a transcript. Now, there are some states that want to see samples of work. So you would want to keep samples of work from the courses that you're going to be using to meet those high school credit requirements. But you would start just like you would start with any type of enrollment process. You go ahead and write down the courses that you're planning to have your child take for that semester or term, whichever language you're using. We use semesters at our house. And so I just write down what course my child is going to be taking. You put fall 2023 or whatever is going to be the time frame, and then you grade it accordingly. However you're going to be grading it, whether you're outsourcing that to another teacher or like a co-op, or if you're going to do it yourself. And I think that's one thing. Hey, Em. I think that's one thing that trips people up is recognizing how much authority you have as the parent taking on the role of teacher, administrator, bursar, registrar for your kid. Like, you are granted that authority by state law. And if anyone wants to argue you down about that, just tell them to read the law themselves. But you have all the authority to create those documents. And I think we as parents were like, wait a minute, that's way too much adulting. Like, are you sure nobody else comes in and checks this? There's like nobody I have to go through? No, that's the truth of it. No. And it's the same at the public school level. Like, as much as they try to make us think that permanent records and all that kind of stuff is a thing, there is nobody, unless the school gets in trouble, there's nobody coming from the Department of Education down to your child's elementary school to knock on your teacher or their teacher's classroom door and say, did you teach it like this and do it like that and do it like that? No, they're trusting that teacher who says that your child got an A on skip counting. That's it. Trust. The whole system is built on trust and compliance. If you really want to break it down. But the compliance is trusting that you say you did it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I try to make it easy to use, but some folks still do not like using Excel. So it comes off a little tricky for them. But yeah. Okay, the high school diploma is what worries you. Ultimately, why haven't I made the change yet? Yeah. Um, I wish I could say that it was more official than it is. It's so not. And this is, I'm telling you this not as just a homeschool. I'm telling you this as a former college admissions counselor. Like, I worked in college admissions for two of the top universities here in Georgia. And y'all, the way they had us believe in these diplomas were more than a piece of paper. And for anybody listening on the podcast, I'm just having a moment of silence for our own gullibility. Oh my gosh, because that's literally all it is. M is saying accurate. M is a former teacher, guys. For anyone who is new to my live, M is a former teacher. I believe she's saying accurate to the example I just gave about, like, nobody from the Department of Education is coming to check in. And like I said, unless there's a problem, then of course they want to see everything in an audit, and they want it tabbed and filed and all that kind of stuff. So I do recommend that you keep track. Like, don't pencil whip this stuff and lie about your child's abilities, because at some point it will catch up that you're lying. But ultimately, the whole entire education system, whether it's public, private, charter, homeschool, unschool, it's all built on trusting that you are teaching what you say you're teaching. And anyone who would want to debate that, I welcome it. I welcome it. So you said that's how they can pass children along. 100%. 100%. Like, what was it? A couple months ago, everyone was scandalized and clutching their pearls about, I believe it was Baltimore, was the city that said however many public schools in their district didn't have any kids meeting, they were not reading or doing math on grade level. And people were like, oh, how can that be? Because nobody's checking, babe, until stuff hits the fan. Then everybody's outraged. But it had to make the news for people to care. This was going on for years. This is operational. It's embedded in the administration of these schools. Like, they're gonna just pass your kid along. If your kid shows up, you get marked present. And after that, who really knows? Like, when you send your kids to school, and I know my mom didn't know. My mom didn't know that when I was in high school, 10th grade, that my entire history class was comprised of watching Roots and listening to my teacher talk about the Atlanta Braves baseball team. Do you think my mom knew that? No, she looked at the report card and said, oh, cool, you got a B. How did I get a B? But anyway, like, she didn't know what my history teacher was teaching. She trusted the school, that the teacher who was the baseball coach. So who knows if he really had a teaching degree. She trusted that the school was putting adults in place who knew the subject. And when she got my report card, she was like, good job. Try to get an A next year. Like, she wasn't asking the teacher for a syllabus. And this is not a dig on my mom, guys. This is what all of y'all do. All of us who put our kids, anyone who puts their kids in public school does this. Okay. I'm using my mom and me as an example because this is the experience that I've had. But this is not in any way a dig on my mother or my dad, who just trusted the school system. And obviously it worked out fine. I got the degree. I got the piece of papers they were asking for. But let's stop acting like it's more than that. Okay. Your child, when you send them to school, they do just enough for the teacher to go, good job. I literally made a shirt. I remember making a shirt with these little iron-on letters that said, if it's not on the test, then I really don't care. Because I didn't want to learn anything. I was only there to get the grade required to make my parents happy, to make the teachers happy, to get the number on my GPA that was required to go on to the next level. It was like playing the world's longest video game. And all I was trying to do was level up, level up, level up, level up, level up, in terms of like first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. I really wasn't trying to do a ton of extra. And especially when I got to middle school, I mean, you can't pay a middle schooler to care about what those teachers are talking about. They'll just do enough to not get in trouble or to, impress their parents. Just like, I don't know about y'all, but when people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Doctor. Why did I say that? Because that's what impressed them and shut them up. but clearly did not become a doctor, clearly did not want to become a doctor. And the fact of the matter is, we're just repeating the cycle to our kids. Those of us who are, we put our kids in school, we're doing that same thing. We're not questioning these teachers. We're not really asking to see the syllabus. Or maybe you do. Maybe you do read the syllabus and it makes you feel good, like, oh, they're going to be learning about, Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1492. That lie, if you've ever been to the Caribbean. I mean, like, we just follow along because this is the prescribed method. And anyone who dare, yes, I said pediatrician too. I said pediatrician too because I want to help children. I don't even like children like that. Oh my gosh. Why were we all telling the same lie? All right, let me jump back a second for some of these comments. Thank you guys for the compliments and the likes. I so appreciate it. Hello, good morning to everyone. Yeah, Jessica said it's been a crazy year. I'm sure. I mean, now with social media, it exposes a lot more than when we were in school. A lot. Just think about it. These are the same. Like, think about what teachers were getting away with back then, because everybody didn't have a camera. But now a lot of this stuff is being exposed, so it's like you kind of have to pay more attention now. Okay, marine biologist. Okay, yeah, I remember that one. I remember hearing people say that. And so now you're in mortgages. To me, you made a great call. Oh, okay. Yeah, you said it's all about money. It is. It is. And honestly, it's all about being able to quantitatively show things, because you really cannot gauge learning. Like, how deep do we want to go today, guys? I mean, honestly, you really cannot gauge whether or not someone has learned something. Because without imposing certain standards, certain benchmarks, right? And sometimes that's arbitrary. But you have to be able to have some kind of arbitrary test to gauge whether or not someone has learned. But the truth is, once you're outside of that system, once you graduated or you have elected to not participate, whether that's through homeschooling or unschooling, you recognize, like, that's not how learning is actually measured. It's not a test. It's not a worksheet. It's not, anything that's really quantifiable. It's more about experiential learning. You don't have a test, really, a gauge, a number of how well you can tie your shoes. Like, do you get 100? Do you get a 75 in tying your shoes? No, it's just your parents teach you, or you teach your kids, and you know that they learn how to do it when you don't have to keep kneeling down anymore. Do they get an A in shoe tying? No. Same thing with cooking. Like, there's really no grade for that. It's like, is it edible? Does it taste good? Is this an A? Is this a B? It's all really subjective at the end of the day. I have heard of K-12. K-12 is it's the corporate work from home job of of curriculum. It's fine. It'll get the job done. A lot of people I know tend to move on from that once they are ready to take the training wheels off. I have no negative thoughts about it. I don't use it. It's fine. It's especially if you're transitioning from public school to homeschooling. I think that's the middle step that a lot of people take before they feel comfortable enough to go out on their own and find different curriculum or different resources. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Yeah. You said that's facts. That you can see that they did the work, but did they understand it and remember it later? I'm gonna say, from my perspective, 100% no. I'm a professional at like regurgitate, repeat, like, and just dump that stuff out of my brain. I'm a professional at that. That's what school taught me how to do. It taught me how to memorize facts or memorize things quickly in order to repeat it with just enough of a spin on it to make it sound original and get a good grade on the test, and then dump that crap out of my brain for the next test. That's what I learned how to do in school. I'm actually learning how to learn from teaching my kids. And well, college helped I'm not going to I'm not completely dismissive of my college experience, but a lot of my college classes were very similar. It's like learn it, test it, dump it. So now learning with my kids, I feel like I'm actually learning for the first time in my life. And we're sharing that information with our friends and family. Like there's so many times where I'll call my mom and tell her something that we've learned. Like she was really tripped out that my 6-year-old knew how to read the word trapezoid the other day. And she was like, is that something they're supposed to learn? Like, is this written down that a 6-year-old has to learn how to read the word trapezoid? And I'm like, I went to the standards and it said something about needing to be able to identify a trapezoid. She's like, but he's reading it on his own. And I'm like, she was just so impressed by that. And I'm just like, yeah, well, this is what we do. Okay, wait a second. Okay, you guys are giving y'all's opinion on K-12. Yep. It's a good first step. I think a lot of people, the general consensus is it's a first step. Maybe not even good. Maybe good is giving it too much credit. It's a first step. Like when you go from public school to home and you're like, I have no idea, but I need something. K-12 can be that something. Think about it like this. And y'all know I love my analogies. Let's say you've been taking public transportation your whole life, right? Public school being the public transportation. And it gets you where you want to go, but you want to have a little bit more freedom of movement, right? Because, public school has public transportation has a, pre-prescribed route. Okay, but you're like, all right, I'm ready to get off the bus or the train or whatever, and I want to have more freedom of movement, but you're not quite ready to drive yourself. K-12 will be like the Uber or the Lyft of transportation. So like you have more freedom of movement, but you're still not driving yourself. So the Uber driver, is the one that controls the speed and the route and stuff like that. But you can still go more places, I suppose. And then branching out of that, homeschooling would be you being the driver. And you can now drive wherever you want. So all the responsibility is on you, vehicle maintenance, choosing the route, choosing the speed, all the, necessary components of driving safely. All that is still on you. But you have much more freedom of where you want to go, when you want to go. So hopefully that analogy helped and made a bit of sense. All those things though that I mentioned, like, public transportation, Uber, Lyft, driving yourself, being on a bike, walking, you can still get to where you want to go. It's just a matter of, how much control do you want to have over how you get there. So that's my version of K-12. They're like the Uber and Lyft of curriculum. But, you don't get to pick the vehicle. You don't really get to pick the driver. It's just a matter of who can get you there at the speed that you're trying to get there. And you may not like the Uber driver. You may not like the Lyft driver. I'm saying this like I've ever been in one. I never have. But from what I've seen, you may not like the driver. You may not like the route they chose. You may think that they should have chosen a different route. Well, you don't get to pick because you're not the driver. And that's kind of what K-12 and other all-in-ones are like. They're like that. So, okay, cool. I see you guys saying that the analogy was good. Good. Glad you guys got it. Sometimes I'm over here like I'm just in my own little bubble, like nobody gets it. But me. So, okay, any recommendations on what we should be working on at each grade level? So there are sites that are fully dedicated to listing out the standards for each grade. Your state actually may have one. So like Georgia, for example, has georgiastandards.org, where you go and you click on the subject, you click on the grade, and it has a whole list of recommendations and explanations for what your kid should know at that grade. There's also a book series called What Your Kindergartner Needs to Know, What Your First Grader Needs to Know. You could read through that book. And then you could also look up on Google, you could search fourth grade scope and sequence and find a list of things that your fourth graders should know. All of them are going to be different. I'm just telling you right now. So it really comes down to what do you think your child should know? And you could use those different examples that I just gave as a guideline for how you want to approach education and learning in your household. But those are different ways that you can find out that answer. No, in Georgia, you do not give the declaration of intent to the school. It's an online website here in Georgia. that it's almost like vehicle registration. You literally just do it online and you submit it. It goes directly to Department of Education. So your state may be different though. I don't know what state you're in, but if you're in Georgia, you do not have to give it to the school. All right, hang on one second, you guys. I'm still recording for the podcast and YouTube, and I did say I would be on till 10:30 today, so I'm gonna keep it going. Any books or websites you recommend K-12 minor and kindergarten? I do like New Path worksheets as a guide. Love Teachers Pay Teachers as a place to look for different resources, but please keep in mind for kindergarten, you don't need a ton. PBS is sufficient. The what your kindergarten needs to know book could help you with just some ideas. I really, really like education.com. YouTube, for sure. Things like Storybots, I think, are fantastic for introducing lots of different things like days of the week, not numbers, days of the week, the planets, dinosaurs. Like I freaking love Storybots so much. They taught my kids so many things just through songs and music. And, just playing games, going to your libraries, read aloud times, I think will be good as well. Oh, your child's school asked for a copy? I'd ask them why. Like, we're withdrawing. Why do you still need my kids' records? But, maybe it's one of those things where they just want to have a record to show that you fully withdrew and now you're homeschooling. Never have heard of that being a requirement. It just might be a request. And knowing the difference between request and requirement is important when you are choosing to be your own advocate. But it's certainly not a requirement by law. It just may be a request for the completion of their withdrawal process. Because now that I'm thinking about it, if I were working in a school administrator's office and I had a parent come in and say they wanted to withdraw their kid, I would probably want that as a sign that shows like, hey, they completely withdrew and this is the proof that they are now homeschooling. So we are no longer responsible for this child. That could be why they're asking you, which in that case, I don't really see a problem with that. Because the only thing that's on the DOI is their name and your address and your county, which they have all that information anyway. So it's just further proof and protection on their side that shows that the withdrawal process was complete. So I would say, gauge it. It's just know that it's not required by law. And I have the state laws printed. But it's up to you on that one. Yes. Sorry, I just need to go get the paper for teaching textbooks. Go get it. Okay. Your fifth grader is having a hard time with math homeschooling. Do you have a suggestion? My fifth grader who just came in is using teaching textbooks, but I also really like to incorporate the games on ABC Ya and education.com and just games in general. Like I made a video over on my YouTube channel about math bingo. That was so helpful, y'all. Oh my gosh. It became the thing that they were learning without realizing they were learning. So I freaking love math bingo, the addition and subtraction and the multiplication and division. We also have played fractions dominoes. So those types of games where they have to do a bit more thinking, but it's not in a worksheet or it's not, online with a test component to it where it's just more like for fun. That really helped because once they can get the multiplication and division and the addition and subtraction down, every other part of math becomes so much easier. So it's like, that's like the equivalent of phonics with reading. Like once your kids can get the letter sounds down and sounding it out and putting words together, reading becomes so much easier. Same thing with math. So one of the ways I really like to incorporate that is math bingo. I've never used Beast Academy, but if anyone else has, please do share. Yeah, some public schools do want to make you feel like you don't have a choice. When it comes down to that, I just put it down to, the indoctrination works. I was part of that. Like I for sure was given side eye to homeschoolers before I started. And because I was like, clearly the only place you can learn is a school. Duh. That's why they call it a school. Um, it's kind of like people who think the only place you can eat is a restaurant, or the only place you can get food is a grocery store. And then you tell someone, oh, well, I'm going to grow my own food. They look at you like you're crazy. Very same thing. So just expect that some people are not going to divorce their mindsets from the public school system and keep it pushing. Like, just because someone else only thinks that you can only get a tomato from a grocery store doesn't mean you can't grow your own tomatoes. Just let them get their stuff from the store and you do your thing. So yeah, that's I would just, expect the side eye. It's going to happen. It's happening less now, because I've been homeschooling now for 9 years. It's definitely happening less, but it's not going to go away. Some people are very comfortable in their mindset, and I just say let them be comfortable. I'm not an evangelist or recruiting. I always tell people I am not recruiting. This is not that page. I'm not the person that's like, if I can do it, you can do it. Because, girl, nah, this is hard. And there's some days that I don't even want to do it. Which is another reason why I've been trying to stay very quiet the last couple weeks, because I know whenever there's a tragedy, people do jump and say homeschool is the answer. And I've been trying to be real quiet about that, because I am of the opinion, I disagree with people homeschooling for emotional reasons, because that's not going to be enough to keep you going when your kid is back talking you and telling you that they don't feel like doing that schoolwork. So yeah, that emotional impulse. I'm not saying that can't be maybe that was your last straw. If you were already thinking about homeschooling and the recent events were kind of like the last straw, okay, that's different. But if before those incidents you weren't thinking about homeschooling and now you are, I'm gonna just say therapy is more the answer than homeschool. You need to get that together first, because homeschooling your kids on a whim or on, based on that emotional, what you were triggered by in the news, is not enough to keep you going. And those are, in my experience, those are typically the parents that end up putting the kids back in public school. And those are the ones that the teachers end up talking about. The kids are behind when they get back in public school because the parent jumped in head first into the shallow end without doing any real research. And they were just, emotionally triggered by an event, a life event. And yeah, those aren't the ones that should be homeschooling. You can't be that emotional about really any decision, just like you wouldn't quit your job because another workplace violence happens in a lot of different places, but that doesn't mean you quit your job, right? But if you were already on the path of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to do my research and I'm going to learn about self-employment laws and how I'm going to have health insurance when I'm out of here, all that research, if you've done all that before and that workplace violent incident is what triggered you, that's different. But if you're you saw something on the news of workplace violence and now you're going to quit your job with no plan, that's equally as dumb as trying to homeschool with no plan, with no research, no prior conversations with people. So I'm your friend, I'm your cousin that's going to be look, maybe you ought to just calm down, have more communication with the teacher, talk about safety with your kids, but your kids are doing fine in school. You should probably leave them there. Because yeah, I don't like seeing people get yank their kids around because they're feeling emotional. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, let me jump back to the comments. Any recommendation for world geography? Ooh. See, we did little passports, which I liked. And then my parents travel a lot. So I kind of outsourced world geography to my parents. Be like, where y'all at this month? I would just say, let it follow your kids' natural curiosity. A lot of times history and geography team up quite a bit because there's on nationaltoday.com, it'll say it's this nation's Independence Day. And that's something that's very natural. A natural way to study things. You can also just play different map games. Oh, GeoGuessr is a fun game to play. Kind of addictive. For fair warning, it's kind of addictive. Watching, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I really liked doing that. But if you're looking for something more formal, we did use a curriculum called Studies Weekly for a couple of years. And that was reading heavy, but it also, did introduce world geography a bit. So that is my suggestion. Oh, someone says Little World Wonders and Thistles and Biscuits was nice. I am not on at this time daily, weekly. Where do you start with upcoming ninth graders? I'm starting with the standards for my state. So georgiastandards.org is where I'm starting to look up what is required for ninth grade at every level. So that's where you could start. And then depending on how your kid learns, you can outsource a lot for high school, like a lot. A lot of it, Khan Academy, if that's not already bookmarked for you for high school, it should be. What was the other one for the high school that we were looking at? Was it All-in-One? Yeah, allinOnehighschool.com is another website that you could bookmark for just the basics, the backbones of high school, and then you can supplement that however you want to. But you're going to want to start with the standards. So yes, thank you for that question. And thank y'all for the likes and the follows, by the way, and the shares and all that good stuff. So definitely appreciate it. Oh, I forgot to turn on the guest thing. My bad, guys. But all this was recorded for today. So if you missed any of it, it's going to be on my YouTube page, Cousin Tam. It's also on the podcast where you can go and subscribe and support my content, which is just under Homeschool Help Desk Live. Any resources that we're talking about were listed it's all in my profile, listed there as like a spreadsheet that you can just like scroll through. It's just an ever-growing list of a lot of stuff. I recommend using Control F to like search through some of that. Oh yeah, the ancestry, we did that too, and that definitely helped. Yeah, doing your own personal like family ancestry. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. Creating your own family tree is another great way to just naturally weave in world geography and obviously world events, depending on how old your kid is. That could also help. Okay, so I see the question, what about friends? So my thoughts on the friend thing is I prefer to let it happen naturally rather than force it. I have tried co-ops and it felt like the only thing we had in common was we were all calling ourselves homeschoolers. We weren't even homeschooling the same way. So co-ops are not my jam, could be yours. I just let my kids enroll in activities that they like, whether they're free or low cost activities like Girl Scouts, Taekwondo. We go to the library quite often, and the friendships form naturally. So that to me has led to the best friendships, is when you just talk to your kid and you say, hey, what are you into? You sign them up for that thing, whether it's a sport, whether it's art, whether it's, whatever, and just let them meet kids there naturally and exchange information with the parents, make arrangements to meet outside of that activity after a couple of interactions, because it's low stress. You're not going there for the friendships, but the friendships just naturally happen. But I would say, that same question can be asked of anybody in public school, because I have a lot of my kids' friends are public schoolers, and my kids are still the public schoolers' best friends. Like, going to school is not a guarantee of friendship. I'm not saying it can't happen, but definitely if you're leaving your house and participating in activities consistently, you're likely to make friends, because that's how friendship happens. You're in Louisiana and there's no extracurricular activities near you? I'm not calling you a liar or anything. I will push back on that. Like, you might not know about the activities that are near you. You might have to explore, because I live in a very rural area. I'm talking like 100 yards from cows. So you might just have to do a little bit more research, or just ask around a little bit more, because somebody's doing something. Because even with public schools, a lot of activities cannot happen during those public school hours. So those kids that are in school are meeting somewhere outside of school. You just have to look around and ask questions. Please stop. Hey, stop. Thank you. My goodness. I do. Okay, so someone's asking, do you use credited or unaccredited curriculum? Accredited is a label that carries no weight. Basically, just for the record, I don't know. Some of the curriculum that or resources that we use might have an accredited stamp, but it's just that it's like accredited is like the JD Power and Associates. It's just a made up stamp that some organization has given because this curriculum meets their arbitrary list of things. It makes absolutely no difference when it comes to college admissions, if that is where that question was going. And again, I say this from the perspective of a former college admissions counselor. It's a label, it's a warm and fuzzy label. So some of the things that we use might be accredited, like we use teaching textbooks as our math. I have no idea if they're accredited by anybody. They might be accredited by some organization somewhere. But that's not, for me, that's not a factor in choosing curriculum. It's more so what helps my kids learn. Whether or not it's accredited I have no idea. We also use education.com, which is an affiliate of IXL, which I do believe IXL has some kind of badges on their website that say accredited by somebody. But again, accreditation is, I actually looked this up. I used to hold it up in the class. I looked up the accreditation standards for like what it would take to become accredited as a homeschool in Georgia, because a lot of homeschool groups do choose to go through the steps. It's like $250 to have somebody come out and review your records, basically, and give you the stamp that says this homeschool group is now accredited. That's all it is. It's basically an inspection. I'm trying to look at the IXL website. I don't know if IXL is accredited, but I know that we use it. We also use Khan Academy, which may or may not be accredited. I have no idea. I would imagine it probably has some kind of accreditation, maybe, because every school on the planet uses Khan Academy. But I have no idea if Khan Academy is accredited by any particular organization. It's not important to me. It's not important to any college, and I just choose to not let it be another thing that stresses me out. I actually want to know though now, Khan Academy accredited. It's not. Khan Academy is not an accredited school, but every school on the planet uses it. Well, if that is not an example of how unimportant it is, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, no, I have no idea is the short answer to is the curriculum I use accredited or not. All right, and also I saw you guys answering the friends question, so I'm going to scroll down a bit. But yeah, the friends thing it's more personality driven than homeschool. Like as a homeschooler, I have three kids that are on a spectrum of extroversion and introversion. I have one that is extremely introverted, one that is extremely extroverted, and one that's kind of in the middle. And they all have friends. It's just a matter of how they like to interact with their friends. They all have their own individual activity, because that was my I do force them, I guess, if you want to use that term. I do force them to have an outside of the house activity, but the frequency of how often it meets and what they do is completely dependent on their personality. So just depends. How do homeschooling kids get a diploma? We order it. Not even joking. We literally order it. The same places that schools order it from, that's where you can order from. You can make your own. When you choose to homeschool, the law, especially in Georgia specifically, gives you the authority as the parent to create and sign off on all documentation that is required, including a high school diploma. Yes, it is that simple. Okay, so Khan Academy is probably not for first graders. You would want Khan Academy Kids, and you can use it just like any other app where they're playing games. and they're going to typically be reviewing math and reading at that level. And then as your kids get older, you can branch out into the sciences and the histories and the art histories and computer programming, all that type of stuff. So if you've got a tablet, I would just say look up Khan Academy Kids for your first grader. Sammy, how's it going? Okay, your understanding is that only schools can be accredited. In Georgia, you have to call yourself, hold on, it's called non-traditional something. I have to find it. Because y'all know I printed this a while ago. Oh, where is my accreditation worksheet? I'm getting messy as the school year comes to a close. But I printed out the standards for accrediting bodies here in Georgia. And they have a thing where if you are not a school, like you're a non-traditional school, they have something that they call it. And I used to keep it right over here on the floor because I kept referring to it. And now I can't find it. But short answer is you don't have to be a school. Let me find it. Oh, there it is. No. See, I looked this up so much that my computer just remembers it. Okay, so the commissioning agency that I'm looking at right now, this is one of the ones. It's called the Georgia Accrediting Commission. This is one of the accrediting commissions that is accepted by the University System of Georgia here in my state. So like I told you guys, I was an admissions counselor for 2 of the public universities here. And when they talk about accreditation, this is one of the commissions that they look to for giving a thumbs up. And when you are looking under the standards, they call homeschoolers non-traditional education centers. That's what homeschool will fall under. And there's 23 requirements in order to become an accredited organization here in Georgia, which, like I said, some homeschool groups do choose to go through this accreditation process because, especially if you're going to be charging people money, you want to be able to have that that special sauce that makes people want to pay because you can say you're accredited, basically. So it's like an official stamp of approval. And right here on the website, it says you have to pay the $250 application fee and to have a consultant come out and check your written operational plan that includes these 23 points. And some of the points that are on here is like the students must be nationally standardized tests every 3 years. Well, that's a standard for all homeschoolers here in Georgia. So the fact that the accreditation body is just checking off that you're doing that, that's all that is. Another one talks about the center will certify the completion of at least 22 units for graduation. Again, that's a standard requirement here in Georgia. You have to have 22 units of credit to be considered a high school graduate here in Georgia. So these accreditation standards are not out of the norm. You just you're paying someone to come in and give you an official stamp of approval. So, I mean, I could do this. If I wanted to pay the fee and write up the plan, I could just become accredited and call my school accredited. And I had considered it at first because that's, back in my earlier time as a homeschooler where I just wanted everything to be super duper official. I looked it up and I was just like, oh, I'm supremely unimpressed by what it takes to be accredited here. So that's when I stopped putting so much weight behind it. But I would say for anybody, look it up in your state to see what it takes to be accredited in your area. You might be pleasantly surprised or disappointed to realize, oh, it's actually not that much. Like, okay, here's a standard, another one that seems super basic. The center will inform parents of their responsibility to comply with Department of Education requirements. That's one of the 23 standards it takes to be accredited. So When someone says, oh, well, such and such is accredited, this is what I think of. Like, okay. And then once you're fully accredited, they don't come back and check every year. Like different accrediting bodies have different, what's it called? Different like rates of frequency for how often they check. So for some, it's every 3 years, some every 5. I've seen some every 7. So once you've met these 23 things, they're not going to come back and check you for like another couple of years. So, okay. Hey, what's up? Yes, I do homeschool year round. I tried to take summers off. My kids started crawling up the walls. I was like, no, we need something to do. We need something to do. Yes, you can. Okay, so can you temporarily move to the Dominican Republic and still homeschool with a Florida base? My understanding of world schoolers, which is what you would want to look up just to verify what I'm about to say, is if your home, wherever your home of residence is, that's the laws that you want to follow. So, for example, I, as a Georgia resident, can go visit my mother in Texas for 6 months if I want to with my kids. And I'm still complying with Georgia law. I do not now suddenly start to follow Texas's laws. And that is my understanding of how travel works for all world schoolers is they follow the rules for their state and they do not, they don't worry about trying to comply with homeschool laws for every region that they visit because they just are following the ones from where their home address is. So wherever your driver's license says you're from, those are the laws, those are the state laws you should be following. What's up?
I wanted a hot dog.
Okay.
Not so I should wait.
I think you should wait.
I'm hungry.
Okay, go eat something else.
I ate some cereal.
All right, sounds good. All right, cool. So I'm going to click off the accreditation thing. How would you report mandatory attendance? So Georgia actually stopped doing that. But before the mandatory attendance was taken away, people were just literally using a spreadsheet or one of those teacher attendance workbook things and writing the dates and check that their kid was there that day. So I don't know what Alabama requires. Usually, though, if there's a requirement, they give you an example form or an example of what they required. So, but I've seen people literally just use either a spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet. Like I sell those in my Etsy shop too. Or you can get one of those notebooks that teachers get and just check it off. Like the green notebooks. Yeah, world school. Yeah, world schooling. Just if you search that term on here or any other social media or just on YouTube, you will see people who are traveling around the world but are following the homeschool laws for their, home state. How about transcripts? When it's time for college, how would that work? You make it. That's a short answer is you are responsible for the transcript. There are transcript services that you could pay for where you send them the information and they design and create the transcript for you, but still that's you making it. You're sourcing that material. I sell transcripts in my Etsy shop and those same transcripts work for college admissions. So you make it. And I think, like I said earlier, a lot of people are just stunned that's how easy it is, but that is how easy it is. It's like when you opt out of the school making it, the public school making it, you then will make it. You're basically saying, when you choose to homeschool, you're saying, I am now assuming all the responsibilities that my public school or private school was meeting for me. That's how you can look at it. And when it comes to, if you're asking like, will colleges accept that? 1,000,000% yes. 1,000,000%. I literally worked for a college, 2 colleges, and yes. Will a college accept it? Yes. All right, so I'm going to hop off of YouTube. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I'm going to hop off here. I've been on for a little longer than I thought I was going to be, but I appreciate y'all watching. And I do anticipate coming back every week. But like I